Well, this is going to be exciting because of who our guest is. So, Nesma, welcome to the Leaders Who Care series.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike. It's an honor.
Um, you're definitely going to fit in with the Leaders Who Care based on what we're going to talk about caring. But to start, why don't you do what's I think is obviously the place to start is tell us a little bit about Nesma. But I have to explain to guys more than women. No, we're not the business yet or all that stuff first, because guys usually go to what their title is in their job when you ask them that. Women are more open in that. If you could just talk about where you're from originally, where you are now, family, maybe something you've never told anybody you want to reveal to the world now. That's always interesting if you got one, but you don't have to. So please share about who's Nesma.
Um, okay, I'm gonna try. So, Nesma is French Algerian. I was born originally in Algeria, but grew up a little bit across continents and currently landed in New York City, in the USA, but was also recently in Europe, in Paris, visiting family, and in London. Who Nesma is, I think Nesma is someone that is deeply human, that is very curious about the world that she lives in, that loves to discover new cultures, grow through different experiences, and meet interesting people. That is very philosophical and at the same time very pragmatic, and someone I think that is always learning and always looking to create meaningful connection and to celebrate life. Loves music, loves culture, and um, and yeah, I think that's at the core, and that deeply cares, that is driven by purpose, that wants to make the world a better place, um, and that is every day discovering herself and the world that she lives in.
Well, I got a little sense of that when we met in Davos that you're that type of person. So that is a reconfirmation of that. Do you have any brothers, sisters, family, and where are they?
Yeah, I have two half sisters. They're based in Paris,
Hmm.
and they're themselves married, have two kids. So I have four nephews and nieces between the age of 13 and 16, almost 17 now.
Oh, so Auntie
So
Nesma.
yeah, definitely Auntie Nesma. And then my mom is also in Paris as well, my dad too, and an uncle in the Bay Area and another one in Canada. So quite globally stretched.
No, cool. Where in Canada?
In Montreal.
Oh, c'est bien. Very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So I have two cousins that basically grew up and born and raised in Montreal. So full on Canadian.
Nice. All right. Now we're getting somewhere on this. Now we're doing good. Especially since I'm wearing my Montreal hockey hat here. So,
Where in Canada are you from yourself?
Montreal.
Montreal. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Straight home.
So we'll have
I
to get
spent a lot
into.
of time there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I don't miss winter. I will tell you that. I don't miss winter.
No, but the summers are really great.
Summers are great and whatnot, but yeah, it's great. It's a great town. We'll have to get introduced and share stories about what's happening in
Absolutely.
Montreal. Um, we're talking about nephews and nieces and whatnot. Share with us a little bit like what were you like as a kid and then even a teenager? Did you organize other kids to do stuff? Did you have a lemonade stand because you were an entrepreneur early? Music, sports? What did you do?
Well, I think I had an atypical childhood in the sense that I grew up in multiple different countries. So I was born in Algeria, but then moved to Paris when I was three and a half. Then at seven, I moved to Ivory Coast in West Africa. And then at 10 in Senegal. And at 12, moved to the US and landed in Washington, D.C., where I stayed until I was 18. And so I think that as a kid, I was easygoing. I was deeply curious about the world that I lived in, always asking why, always trying to understand the experience that I was having and in a playful and curious way. I was very open Loved the beach, loved the water. Both in Algeria, we have the Mediterranean Sea, and in
Wow.
Ivory Coast in Senegal, we have the Atlantic Ocean. So I learned how to surf very young also through that. Um, Big reader. I loved books, literature, so I read quite a lot. That was a big part of my life, and that opened up also, I think, new worlds and new ways of seeing. And and yes, I think in terms of did I organize, um, I think yes. I think in some ways, I was a leader in the sense that I like to bring people together. Um, but in really like in my teenage years, I anchored like a big sense of purpose, and I think having grown up in different countries, and then, coming into my teenage years into the US, I started, kind of the process of sense making of my experiences and my identity. And then I definitely was the one that was speaking against injustices or that were, you know, um, taking, voices for the topics or for the people that I thought mattered. I think I was always driven by a sense of justice, of purpose, and of care and empathy.
Hmm.
And so that was definitely there for sure.
Well, it's fascinating. We're fortunate that we're able to travel internationally and we see the advantage that you saw. Some people would say, man, you have to move around a lot. And there's something to that too, that you're moving around a lot. But if you look at your journey with living in different places, and even as a little kid, you might not understand, but you feel stuff going along. And they even say from
Hmm.
birth to 3 years old,
For sure.
we learn a lot from birth to 3 years old, even though we hadn't even talked yet. And so, if you look at the different places you lived as a young woman, and then your education was pretty diverse too. You got your French baccalaureate at economics, social science. You did NYU, bachelor's in film and TV production. I should introduce you to my son, who's an actor, by the way. And social entrepreneurship, political and social philosophy. I mean, that was your formal education, but if you combine that with your real life education that you saw, what were you seeing for yourself in the future? Did you have a vision of where this was going to lead you to?
I think more than like a specific vision that did not change, I see it as an unfolding. I think things really started to click for me as a teenage girl, looking back, making sense of my experiences. I had been exposed to a lot of different cultures, a lot of different narratives, a lot of socioeconomic backgrounds. I had even lived in countries that had experienced war. And my mom herself was an economist specialized in development. So I think, um, and I grew up in books, in stories. I was deeply curious myself. So I think all of that started to concretize. And I knew that I wanted to make a positive impact in the world. I knew that I wanted to contribute somehow. Um, and I remember around 15, I started thinking that in life you had to do something that you loved and that you were good at. If you loved and you were passionate about it, then you were going to wake up every day and you were going to keep going. And if you were good at it, then eventually success was going to come. So I started reflecting on the things that I was passionate about, that I was good at. And what led me to film actually is that I was quite a polymath. So I was good at math and physics and economics, but I also grew up in literature and found philosophy also in literature quite young. So that was also quite a big driver.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, my French teacher in high school opened up a cinema class,
Ah,
which I took as an option. And we were asked to write a script on society of today, yesterday, and tomorrow. And our scripts were submitted to this international francophone screenwriting contest. Um, and mine ended up winning the first prize, and it was sponsored by Michel Gondry, who did The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, among
not
others.
bad.
And so I really enjoyed the process and realized that I could create meaning, create my understanding of the world, reframe narrative to create an experience in a sense of empathy that could be really powerful. And so I think that's the first time that I started looking at film as a vehicle for social change and the power of fiction, the power of storytelling as a way to connect people and to inspire them. And I think the rest has been an unfolding, but that was the initial point for sure when I started being engaged in this way.
No, that's I love the combination of your real life experience with the education, because we know it makes an impact. It's probably the best education you can get is being with other people, different countries. You never thought of coming to LA to be an actor?
An actor, no, but when I graduated from Tisch from NYU, I came to LA. I was writing a feature at the time, and I was interested in the topic of child soldier. And I found out that under US law, a child soldier is seen as a terrorist, so he doesn't have the right to political asylum. So I thought that was an interesting entry point, and I was writing a screenplay around the framework of a courtroom. And as the kid was testifying, you went back into his story. And so I moved to LA at the time and lived in LA for a year and a half. I got in some offers as well for the film, and but I don't think it was the right moment for me. So I moved back to New York City, and I started looking in 2016 at immersive technology. That was also like a field that was just emerging,
Hmm.
and started thinking, how do I use immersive technology as a tool for empathy? And so developing different concepts around like virtual reality and augmented reality, it kind of, a little bit different than film, but still in that same
Sure.
creative and purpose driven aspect. So one thing, to another, I was led where I am today.
That's pretty incredible. Did you storytelling is obviously, a big deal, and that's what film does. It's a big deal, and I always remember my favorite quote is from Maya Angelou, who she said, most people will forget what you said, most people forget what you've done, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And I thought it's like so right on the money for so many things, no matter what it is, where you live, where you work, where you play, that you make people feel good, stuff happens. Were there any other specific experience that stand out for you now that you're especially proud of that that not launched but push you even forward in what you're doing?
Yeah, I think definitely there were key moments, that were turning points or levers into where I am today. First, in regards to what you were saying about Maya Angelou, I think she's a wonderful icon and
Mhm.
writer that also deeply inspires me. And the quote you said is one of my favorites as well. And I always tell
Cool.
it to people because that's the legacy, right? The impact
Yep.
you leave. So I really appreciate us sharing that resonance.
I mean, I
Um,
started to intro. I use it in my business all the time when we're helping clients get the best talent or whatever it may be, and even in sports, um, how you make people feel is the whole ballgame. So thank you for sharing that.
yeah, absolutely. No, I really agree with that as well. And to answer your question, yeah, I think you know, life is a series of moments, and turning points that take you where you are. And I think no one has ever uh, had an exact vision of their lives when they were a teenager that turned out the exact way. Or if you found that person, and there
Yeah,
was
good luck.
I think it's almost, yeah, like premonitory or prophetic in this way. But yeah, no, I think like one of the turning points is me like coming back from LA, looking at emerging technology, and then in 2018, I was contracted by the World Bank um, to help them humanize the refugee and internally displaced, crisis. There was a big economic and development challenge. The leaders of the world and stakeholders were coming to DC to discuss these issues during the World Bank annual spring meetings. And so we put together um, a concert and an exhibition with artists that were coming from all over the world, but from countries affected by these issues. And it was a wonderful moment of collaboration, of creativity, of humanity. And I think in that process, I learned that I really wanted to make an impact to being creative and to using that creativity as a purpose. And it didn't matter if it was film, if it was photography, if it was immersing technology, if it was music, or if it was the arts. It had to be like a process of collaboration, and I wanted to inspire others and not, not depress them. And I think, in that process and in, working at the intersection of immersive tech and creativity, I started looking just at emerging technology in general and started looking at blockchain or artificial intelligence. I met Deepak Chopra in 2018 as well, I believe, at a conference around AI and the future of humanity.
Hmm.
And at the time, I was developing different applications for immersive tech and had some ideas around wellness and PTSD and meditation. So that was another turning point in journey where I started collaborating with Deepak around a wide range of topics and
I'm not surprised.
looking at the intersection of tech and consciousness and expanding the ways that I was interested in understanding and relating to the world. And then started looking at blockchain, started looking at artificial intelligence and looking at how emerging technology we had an opportunity to do it right and to develop use case and products from the beginning that were ethical and had the benefits, of the individuals and the communities at heart. So I thought that instead of being afraid of them, how about we embrace them, but with the right ethical lens and value-driven culture that it deserves. So I think that was another key moment when it opened, something deeper within the tech industry, and got me to move away, not move away, but to combine now creativity with technology and innovation in a deeper manner.
Yeah, that's
And no,
no,
go ahead, Mark.
that's awesome. You said something really important. I think, if we're afraid of stuff, we're going to miss the opportunity of all the good things that can happen, whether it's tech or even art or whatever, fear kind of, um, well, fear is actually the opposite of love, actually, and it can just stop us from doing great things. And so I appreciated, what you said there. And I want to, before we go to some of the other business stuff, I want to ask you, um, equality and equal access, including for women, has always been an issue, and including in business and stuff. Your experiences in different cultures, I think, gives you an advantage of how to engage with different people in different cultures and adapt. But tell us a little bit. In fact, our firm was launched at the UN headquarters 6 years ago on International Women's Day, because our core business initially was about women leadership and women empowerment and everything, and still is a big part. So plus, we like hanging around powerful women, so it works out really well. But describe a little bit your journey as a woman, in a diverse world, in different partnerships, governments, traditions, food. I mean, you name it. It's gotten a lot better, but there's still challenges, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think um, I'm not someone that likes to adopt like a victim mentality. I'm kind of someone that likes to recognize a problem or a challenge and then become part of the solution.
Hmm.
And so I think, you know, the world does not value diversity as much as it should, whether it is like cultural diversity or whether it is like gender diversity.
Right,
And I think instead of being in competition with one another, we should really, create the space for all of us to thrive. Women are 51% of the population.
right.
We're not going anywhere. Every man
We're not
comes,
going anywhere.
through, every man comes through a woman. So, like, it would be very hard for a woman, to
Good
disappear.
point.
We kind of, yeah, exactly. So, and we've always been like a big part of society, whether that has been more obscured or not. We were, hunters and warriors like back in the day as well. We are involved, in the family affairs even before women had financial rights, that
Yeah,
were recognized, by the financial systems, the society. We've always, played a very important role in many different ways. And I don't think that is new. I think the recognition, I think the official ways that the systems have adapted and still needs to adapt is what is lagging. And so um, I think women face challenges that are different than men, and I think that most of the systems that have been established have been mostly established by a patriarchal society that has not taken into consideration um, the experience of the woman. And so I think a lot of that is breaking that apart so that we can find our space, in equilibrium with one another. And I think in this case, it's proven that both our economies, both, climate and a lot of other challenges that we face will be resolved. I think for me, as a personal experience, I think you experience things no matter whether you act about it as a victim. I think that they can be you have maybe to prove yourself, more, prove that you are more than your appearances, but brains, prove that you
right.
are, and shift the dynamics, that sometimes can be biased in this way, which I don't think men experience. Um, and then as a woman, to be taken seriously when the room is full of men. I think even in like subtle, signaling is something that always needs to be reasserted. I think women also because of that suffer of imposter syndrome much more than men. Assume that they have to have a certain personality or armor in order to make it. None of that can be very exhausting. I think we all want to be able to approach things, the way we are. I think it's been proven that actually when women are founders or leading a company or a startup, that there's a higher return of interest, that they tend to manage even the finances a bit
Yeah.
better. And again, not to be in competition, but just to showcase that like the abilities are there. And so you, when we know that only 3% of VC capital is, given to women founders, and that the 97% rest goes to men founders, we obviously that there's still inherent biases and difficulties that women have to overcome in order to be as respected and as valued their male counterparts.
Yeah, I think
But hopefully that will be changing.
no, it's changing. It was actually, I think it's stupid to use a very clear word that it's very clear that diversity of experiences, diversity of perspective, diversity of ideas. It's not a rocket scientist doesn't you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that's probably a good thing for business and for everything. I also found it funny that we listen to our grandmother and mother at home a lot, right? Type of thing, and yet
Yeah,
in other ways not. And I also think that if we're going to have peace ever, I think it has to be women and maybe even women and a lot of moms also to make that happen. So really well said how you described it. And I'd like to move towards a little bit to business wise and what you're doing. They say the fourth industrial revolution is about well, technology, really AI is fast and furious now, and VR, AR there too and whatnot. And the fifth one is being touted as actually being humanity, the fifth revolution, but being humanity. And we try to combine, tech, talent, and impact all the time together in our firm. And can you share how, with respect to two things that you're doing alongside the same thing, you have your WeCare Impact organization. Love to hear about that, and also what your role is at Impact Ventures and how you strategically look at utilizing AI and other tech and like as you mentioned, creativity and culture and whatnot for both for-profit and not-for-profit ventures, um, especially when you're trying to make an impact on justice and equal access and all those areas. How are you combining what you do to achieve your goal?
Yeah. So I'll answer by the end and like backtrack. I
Mhm.
think technology is a tool. And like any tool, it's a double-edged sword. The tool is only useful depending on what you use it for.
Right.
So, and it's not something that is going anywhere. I think we've seen like human evolution. It tends to be continuously, pushed forward. So I just engaged myself and started to look at like if this is a tool and if this is going to keep on evolving, how can this tool be applied in a way that benefits humanity? How
Mhm.
can we create value but in a way that is not detrimental, in the long term to our resources, to each other and to ourselves. And if you think about it, that should be like a really simple question that we should all ask ourselves.
No kidding.
Unfortunately, apparently it's not. But I don't think it's like I'm discovering anything crazy. It's like, like if we're gonna create something, if we're gonna produce something, what is its utility? How does it create value? And
Mhm.
I think our culture has forgotten these principles, and I think that we need to guide it back into that. So AI can be used in ways that are destructive, that disrupt the ecosystem, that even create existential threats for humans. um, or it can be used for war. It can be used to, it is itself very like water and energy, like consuming, or it can be used to create new cures for cancers, to
Mhm.
enhance personalized medicine, to do precision, farming and agriculture to help with our crops, and a wide array of positive things. And it's all about the use case and the application. So where I come in and where we come in with WeCare Impact, which is the creative studio and consulting firm that I founded, is that we help purpose-driven organizations, or companies to develop ethical use cases, whether they're blockchain-based or AI, that address and solve global challenges, ranging from climate to the refugee crisis and the school in between, but in a way that creates value and is positive. For humanity, we believe that profit doesn't have to be dissociated with purpose,
100%.
and that in order to create real sustainability and to future-proof yourself, that aligning the two is a good business idea. And so this is kind of the way this is where the space where we position ourselves. And so we have an ecosystem of strategic partners, tech developers, experts that we bring in to support us, depending on the project, and basically make sure that we have something that creates value both internally for the company, but also for the communities that it serves. And then to circle back to what we were saying about supporting women founders. Um, Along my journey, I've also had the opportunity to be asked to join the as an advisory board member, a family office and investment platform that supports early stage women led
Mhm.
startups that are making an impact across different verticals. So, Anchor Impact Ventures is a family office that invests early stage in what we call rising stars across different verticals such as financial inclusions, smart cities, healthcare, and then as of more recently, with are developing a new investment arm that I've been leading as a lead consultant and advisor around arts, culture, and tech. So we will be investing specifically in startup in these category with also an impact dimension, also women led. Like we believe in empowering women founders as the next rising star and mission driven. And
Love it.
so we are we come very early and invest ac across different markets and continents, but that is basically our thesis. And then I also the opportunity to be a board advisor and founding member for Thousand Faces, which is an investment platform that's community driven, an accelerator that also supports early stage women founders. And their thesis is that if you support and fund women founders, you both help support to solve gender equality and climate change at the same time. As women tend to have values that are more inclined to have an environmental dimension to it.
Well, first of all, congratulations. That's like brilliant. And second of all, what I find when I work with clients and getting the right talent or clients, family offices, whatever that are looking for money and to invest in rising stars is that the impact on not only the individual but their family and their wider family from just having discussions at home about what's going on, and it's exciting. And kids, even little kids, we talk about feeling it. They feel it when they see their parents or aunt and uncle doing stuff and talking about it, rather than, oh, work sucked today. I'm so bored and no one's doing anything. That type of thing. And so you're teaching them wisely. And what's interesting is on this series we started adding we have 18 to 29 for youth, but now we also have 8 to 18 in there. And so if there's any what we were going to call the future leaders who care, but some of them are already the present future leaders who care. And so we're take definitely recommendations if there's young rising stars that we can highlight. Um, we can do it. And I won't take too much time on this, but one of them is an 11-year-old that has just finished writing her fifth book, right, already on well-being and meditation and family values and you name it. And
Oh,
another gal from Liberia and Saroma, she got bullied and she didn't understand. She said we all have melanin in our body to determine what color we're going to get and all that, and so we're all human beings. So at the age of 12, she started a skincare company, and she told me, she said, Mark, I want every kid in the world to feel empowered in their own skin.
no,
And I
that's
said,
beautiful.
man, at 12 years old, my best friend was my hockey stick and playing hockey, not opening up a skincare company. And so it's so great what you're doing with Rising Stars because it's going to have such an impact beyond just that business
Absolutely.
that they're doing. And so it's fantastic. So those are the leaders who care and
Yeah, absolutely. And
aren't.
before society conditioned us, before we were wounded and all of the stories started to come up, and I think it's really beautiful to see them shine, and to give them a platform to inspire us to remember, how we were and how things can be before we were brainwashed and confused.
Yeah, no kidding. That's why I love talking to them. We haven't screwed them up yet, basically. So, um,
Absolutely.
um, one last question because here in LA, and you'll appreciate this. We say we want to leave them wanting more, so we can do a sequel. So maybe we'll have to do a sequel. But a client told me in 2021, he was telling me he was describing what he thought 2020 when we had the pandemic was. He said that was the year that flew by slowly. And I thought that was kind of
Mhm.
brilliant because even now it feels like yesterday and also years ago, all at the same time in some ways. And now we're fast
Mhm.
and furious into 2025. Can you share with us what you're most grateful for and also what you're most hopeful for?
In general, in life, at this moment in my life,
Hmm.
I find what I'm most grateful for is um, my mom, the people that I love, and care for, and that care for me, friends, family, like across.
Hmm.
I think relationship really give meaning to life, and I'm very grateful for the upbringing, that especially my mom gave me, and the role model that she's been. I'm grateful for waking up every day, being healthy, being able to discover and to learn so much and to be of service.
Hmm.
And I really look forward to keep being inspired, be like people like you, by the rising stars, and keep contributing myself to co-create a better, more just, equal, and harmonious world.
Well, I think you're well on the way, and I'm grateful that well, I'm grateful I have a new friend. I'm grateful for that, and I'm also grateful that you are a leader who cares. And I think I'm grateful and hopeful because you are a leader who cares. So, thank you for sharing all that. Thank you for all you're doing and for being on our Leaders Who Care series.
Thanks for having me, Mark. It was an honor.